Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Britton's Hangout Hour, episode 101. We finally gotten to the triple digits of the show. Can't believe we're here, but I'm here today with Tom Orange from Tom Orange, who has the best mustache this side of BookTube, and
I appreciate it.
he's also a pretty cool guy. So how you doing, Tom?
Doing pretty good. Like we were just saying, Monday, long day and everything. Getting back to work after the weekend and all that fun stuff. So, but good in general.
Yeah, I just got back from my classes. Well, I had stopped. My cousin just got back from where she's stationed at because she's in the Marines now.
Okay.
And they were eating, so I went over there to go see what they were doing. I hung out there for a little bit, and then I came back here. So here we are.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's been a bit of a long day, to be honest with you. So Monday,
Yeah, I feel you on that. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah. So like you said, when we first got on here, it's been a long time coming. We've been. I contacted you, and I'm like, hey, you want to come on my channel? And you're like, yes. And then I forgot about it, as I sometimes do, because I send out a bunch of podcast invites to a bunch of different people. So sometimes there's a couple that slip through the cracks, but I try to get back to them. So we managed to get back to it, and here we are now.
Yeah, we're here now. Yeah, exactly. We're here now.
So yeah, so yeah, we're here. We're here now. So how are you today, Tom? Aside from Monday.
Yeah, I mean, pretty good. I had an okay session at the gym today. That's what I just got back from. So I worked all day, went to the gym, and got back. Made sure. That's why I asked to bump it back by an hour compared to what you
That
normally
makes
do.
sense. Yeah,
Because
we're originally gonna have it like 6:30, and then he texted me the other day, and he was like, "Can we move to 7?" I'm like, "Yeah, it should be fine." So it
yeah,
actually worked out better because I might have been late if we had stuck to the original. So
yeah,
that worked out.
I take longer than I should at the gym, so you know, it worked out well.
That worked out, as people like to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Here, my cat.
Gotta love the animals.
Yes, my dog was in here earlier. She was all excited that I got home, and I was like, "No, no, parents will be back soon." It's just little old me. But yes, you run a BookTube channel where you
Yep.
talk about books. Shocker.
Right. Yeah.
Fantasy, a lot of fantasy related books, and sometimes other genres as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Mostly. Yeah. It is mostly fantasy. I do sneak in sci-fi and every now and again some other stuff, but mostly a lot of fantasy. I would like for there to be a little bit more sci-fi because I like sci-fi about as much as I like fantasy. I think the highs I get from sci-fi are higher than the highs I get from fantasy in general terms. But the lows that I also get from sci-fi are way worse than a lot of the lows I get from fantasy when it comes to my reading. So it's kind of a mixed bag there. But those are definitely my two major ones. I
I
would like to
see.
get back.
Oh, sorry. Finish your thought.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I would like when I first got back into reading after I graduated college, I read a lot of like classics and a lot more literature,
Mm.
or what people would consider literature. How people can be with not counting fantasy as literature. But that's something I would like to get back to a little bit more because there are definitely some very highly thought of books that I have not gotten around to yet.
Oh man, I know what you mean. I read so much. Or there's so many books I want to read. It's ridiculous. You know how it is.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
At least I hope you do. I think it's something a lot of avid readers struggle with. But
Yeah.
I did notice a fun little commonality. We only have, I don't know how many 5 stars you have right now, but as of a month ago, I do remember you said you only had 2 5 stars this year. Is that still the case, or?
For this year, here, let me actually have my rankings up. For this year, yeah, it's still two. I haven't read anything else. I haven't really. I went on a vacation in August that kind of messed up. Well, not messed up, but it got in the way of my reading, so I haven't actually really read much in August. But yeah, I still only have 2 5 stars for this year.
Oh, I was about to say, same here. It's been an interesting. There's been a lot of really good books, but not too many that have really you know, there were a couple that came close, but
Okay.
they weren't
Yeah.
quite there.
Yeah, the two that I read, I mean, they were fantastic, and I'm glad I read them. But in general, I've had a pretty decent reading year. Like, I haven't really read anything that was like awful, awful. I did have a little skid where it was like it felt like I read an entire month worth of 2-star reads. But since then, it's kind of bounced back and been pretty positive.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
My only 2 reads that I've considered 5 stars are Kindred and Lonesome Dove.
Okay.
So there you go. At least so far.
Okay.
Again, there could be more, but it's been kind of a slow reading year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'll probably be about on the same pace as what I read last year, but it feels like less. So we'll see if I actually get to the same number. But this year in general feels a little bit less for me. Those are 2 books, that, by the way, that I do very much want to read, and I haven't done it yet. For me, my 2 5-stars are Pet Sematary and then All the Pretty Horses.
Oh, so, those are 2 very good books.
Yeah.
I read All the Pretty Horses last year, at the beginning of the year, which I really enjoyed a lot. Definitely would be one I'd recommend as like a starter if anyone's interested in McCarthy and, you know, don't know where to start. I might make that video in the future. I made one for Dennis Lehane about a week ago.
Okay, yeah. Did you read the Crossing, the next book?
I did, yeah, I did. Yeah. That was a bit of a denser read than All the Pretty Horses. It's really sad as well.
Oh okay.
I mean, I won't pretend that All the Pretty Horses is cheerful by any means, but there is romanticism in there though. So it's not as bleak as he can go, but The Crossing is just damn. I feel bad for this guy.
He is a very bleak author with a lot of his stuff. So yeah, All the Pretty Horses definitely is not anywhere close to how bleak he can go for sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I would say his most hopeful work is The Road, and that's a post-apocalyptic story, so I should tell you all you need to know.
Well, and so much of that book is very bleak until you get to some certain things that happen. But, like, I can definitely see somebody who's, 30% into that book being like, this is his hopeful book? you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, I that's why I say most hopeful. It's not
right.
Like, that
not that it's a lot.
It does not mean it's cheery.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Which I know for a lot of people can be rough with him as an author, and he's an author that there are some of his books that I have read that I did not have a really great time with, and I think part of that is I wasn't like ready for the book. I was expecting something different, and I think going in with the right expectations with him are important.
So, yeah, I mean, my plan with the Border trilogy is I read All the Pretty Horses last year, really enjoyed it. Read The Crossing this year, I quite enjoyed it. Not as much, it didn't leave as, well, I don't want to say it didn't leave as much of an impact, but it didn't quite, what's the term? It didn't quite stick with me as much as, or, well, I should say it stuck with me for a different reason than All the Pretty Horses. It wasn't one where I was like, man, that was really good. But, I digress.
Yeah.
Still a good book. And next year, at the beginning of the year somewhere, I'm going to read Cities of the Plain. So, there you go.
Okay, yeah. That's a good plan. Yeah, I keep saying, because I liked All the Pretty Horses so much, I should get around to The Crossing this year. But I know that they're not really, like, yes, it's part of the same trilogy, but they're not really connected all that much. I don't feel that same urge.
It's kind of spiritually connected.
Yeah. Okay.
Though
that's kind of what I've heard.
The third book has both protagonists from All the Pretty Horses and The Crossing. So.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, in Cities of the Plain, we will see John Grady Cole again.
Okay, interesting.
So.
I did not know that.
See how he's doing.
Yeah.
In the after what happened in All the Pretty Horses.
Yeah, for sure.
And what Billy is doing, because Billy is, I won't spoil, but he is not in a fun place at the end of The Crossing, which,
that does not surprise me in the least.
I'm trying to stay as vague as possible here, but I will say he is not in the best of places at the end of The Crossing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a spoiler when it comes to McCarthy.
No. Even at the end of The Road, it's a little ominous. You're like, can we trust these people?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Yeah.
Cause
I feel like you want to, but like, can you?
Though, if I remember right, I'm either thinking of the movie or the book, but I think they do have a dog, so maybe they're not that bad. But we'll see. I don't know. But
Yeah.
McCarthy leaves it up in the air.
Yeah, he does like that.
I like your little thing on your thumbnail for all the pretty horses. Should have been a cowboy.
I should have been a cowboy.
You
yeah.
know, I
Yep.
think you could have been a good cowboy. You got a good mustache for being a cowboy.
That is important to be a cowboy. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Like me, I got not really great facial hair. I don't know.
The mustache is really is the best part of mine. So
You either would be a good cowboy or a good Viltrumite if you've read or watched Invincible, because
I have. Yeah. I was
gag,
actually
the running gag of their characters is they all have mustaches, or the males
yeah.
do.
I actually was I was Omni-Man, not All Might. I was Omni-Man for Halloween last year.
Oh, that is awesome.
So
That would
yeah.
be. Oh, that's awesome. Hope you have fun.
I dyed the side of my hair and had like a full Omni-Man suit. So
Oh, that must have been awesome.
yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, I was actually rewatching Invincible the other night, and I'm like, man, this is really good. But it's yeah. So yeah, you'd be a good cowboy and a good Viltrumite.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take that for sure.
But so you said you or I think your most recent video you said you vacation kind of, or one of your recent videos you said vacation kind of destroyed your TBR.
Yeah, it did. So I went on like a 11 or 12-day motorcycle trip to Sturgis, South Dakota, which is the largest motorcycle rally in the world.
Oh.
And I had the delusion that I would still have time to read on this trip. And that was very incorrect. I didn't read at all. At no point did I. I don't listen to audiobooks when I ride for, I think, pretty obvious reasons. Not the best idea.
You want to stay alert.
Yeah, it's. I know some people.
I've always wanted to drive a motorcycle. They just scare the hell out of me. I'm afraid I might get into an accident and like hurt myself really badly.
Yeah, so I always say it's the dumbest thing I do. It's like I love it. I'm glad it's something I do. I'm glad it's one of the hobbies that I have. But like, I don't tell people that they should go buy a motorcycle. It is absolutely the dumbest. It is absolutely the dumbest thing I do, and there's a lot of risk with it. And,
wear helmets at least.
I do, yes. I wear a full face helmet all the time. So,
my aunt and uncle go to a motorcycle rally. It's just in Arkansas, not in South Dakota.
Okay. Yeah, there's a bunch around, but the Sturgis one is the biggest one. So it took 3 or 4 days to get out there, 3 days back, and then I was there for about a week. And it was get up early in the morning, ride all day, come home, or back to the hotel, eat dinner, and kind of go to sleep because I was just tired. It was a little over 4,000 miles total.
Not bad. That sounds like a pretty good deal, actually.
Yeah, it was a great time, but not for reading. But I will say the silver lining to it is I decided that I wouldn't read anything else. I finished Neon Ghost, which I was in the middle of reading, and then I've just kind of dedicated the rest of August to Memories of Ice.
That's the Daniel Green book, isn't it?
That is the Daniel Green book,
I was actually talking about that the other night, or yesterday, actually, with my friend Liam from Liam's Lyceum. So.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
It sounded kind of interesting. Cyberpunk vampires, apparently.
Yeah, I have read his other books as well. His first fantasy stuff that he put out, and it's pretty impressive. And I think it shows that he's put in a lot of work to like get better at writing, because the Neon Ghost is like a really big step up compared to those first two, I think. And I had a really good time with it. And I know I made sure to say I did a review for it, and I made sure to make sure that I said, there's no like backroom BookTuber thing going on for me to say that I like this book. I've never spoken to him.
Man,
I've never had any interactions with him.
2,000 subscribers, and Daniel Green has like freaking, I don't know how many subs.
Like over 500,000 or something.
I'm sure he may have. He could have seen your video, but
it's possible. But yeah, he's not reaching out. I'm not pushing the sales for him. But yeah, I had a good time with it. I really liked it. There were some messy parts to it, but like overall, it was fun. It's not like you know, a masterpiece that's going to change how people look at literature and reshape the universe or anything, but like there's not many books that are. So
Yeah, I didn't garner. I mean, a lot of books aren't that. You know,
exactly.
sometimes it's good to. We can't all be a Cormac McCarthy or like a Ray Bradbury. I don't know if you read
Yeah,
Ray
exactly.
Bradbury, but you know.
Only one book from him.
Which one? Was it Fahrenheit 451?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it was.
I thought so.
Yeah, it was Fahrenheit. Yeah,
That's the one everyone reads.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I went through a stage where I read like 1984, Fahrenheit 451, Animal Farm. There's a couple
So
more
all
that
the
I'm
dystopian
forgetting.
classics. I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, We, I think, is the other one. I think there's one more that I read. Brave New World. There we go. Brave New World. I kind of read all of those, I don't know, within like a year, 18 months of each other.
Not,
So,
you know,
yeah.
that's funny. It's kind of similar to what I did. I when I was in late middle school, early high school, I read a bunch of classic books, and there were
Okay.
a good couple I enjoyed, and there were some I just didn't care for.
Yeah.
Scarlet Letter, you know who you are. Um, I did read 1984 and Brave New World and Animal Farm in a very short succession, so
Okay.
I like them all. They're very good.
Yeah, I mean, I think Fahrenheit was probably my least favorite, which
Though
might be
I
a
guess
little bit of a hard take, but
my spicy take is I kind of like Animal Farm more than 1984. Just I think
Okay.
I think the storytelling is more succinct in Animal Farm, but you know, that's just me.
did you read it first by chance?
No, I read 1984 first. And
Okay,
that
because I
rocked,
haven't.
and that rocked my world. And then I read
Yeah,
Animal
okay.
Farm, and that also
Then it
rocked
was-
my world. But I've given it some thought
Okay.
over the years, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I kind of like Animal Farm a little more.
Yeah,
Just a personal thing. I love both
Sure.
of those books.
I have a theory that whichever you, for a lot of people, whichever one you read first is the one you're going to like more, and so that's why I was asking. Just like a personal theory of mine. I don't have any backing
Another
for that.
spicy take is I think that Brave New World is a far scarier dystopia than 1984 is. So there you go.
Yeah,
This
Brave
is
New World
this
would
is
be
the
pretty.
literary
It
hot
would be.
take podcast this evening.
that would be. I mean, they're all pretty terrifying, but yeah, there is something special about a Brave New World and how that society is
Like,
set up. And
Sure, 1984 is scary, and you know, you wouldn't want to live in Airstrip 1 for sure. I don't
Sure.
want to live there. But I don't know, there's just something more sinister to me about Brave New World's hedonistic world, I guess. That we're like so distracted and you know, we're always chasing after the high, we kind of forget what it means to be human.
yeah, no, I think that's a fair take. I think it is. I think it's interesting that people kind of read 1984 as like the definitive of those books to read, and then they never really branch out to any of those other ones. And I'm sure there are other ones that we haven't like mentioned that probably should be in that same conversation. But you know, those are
I mean,
kind
there
of
is
the big ones that
Handmaid's
come to mind.
Tale, but I remember not really
Yeah.
liking the Handmaid's Tale that much. I might read it again at some point to see if if I change my mind.
Yeah, that's one I have not read actually. So I actually haven't. I think that funny enough, that might be the book that's been on my like wish list for the longest, and I just have never pulled the trigger on it.
I remember liking her book, Orcs and Crake, a lot more than The
Okay.
Handmaid's Tale, but you know, read The Handmaid's Tale. I don't want to tell people to not read anything, so.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, just because I don't like something or because I like something, you got to read it for yourself to find out. You know.
I mean, I have to really hate a book if I'm going to tell somebody just don't read it at all.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever.
Maybe the Turner Diaries I would tell someone not to read because it's like a really hateful. It's really
Okay.
bad, but it's also really like harmful to the world in general.
Okay,
So
yeah,
that's-
that might be a decent one.
You know, so that might be the only one I can justify telling people not to read.
Yeah, I actually have books that I like that I would tell people not to read because I don't think they're for a lot of people.
Oh, sure.
I think,
Yeah,
you
there's
know,
books that, like, I see you have a video called
yeah, I just recently
"These
made one that
books
was
are hard to
basically,
recommend, but I love them."
they are.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
books
and it
like
was,
that, like, going back to the McCarthy theme. I find it really difficult to recommend Blood Meridian is a pretty easy example. Because it's
yeah,
such a...
absolutely.
I was actually having this discussion with a friend of mine yesterday about, like, it's a hard sell. Like, there's not really... It's like more of a... There you go. I'm kind
Yeah,
of... It's
yeah.
hard to explain, much less
Yeah, so Blood
recommend it to
Meridian
somebody.
has a lot of things going against it if you're going to recommend it to somebody who's like not ready for that kind of book.
That's why I recommend other
Between
McCarthy books to kind of get your feet wet.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, my go-to recommendation is probably The Road.
Yeah.
Um, just because one, yeah, I mean, it has the movie, so it has some of that. I haven't read No Country for Old Men, so that might be if I had read it because I really do enjoy that movie, and
It's
I've
pretty
heard it's
same to
pretty
the movie, except
close.
there's some
Yeah.
stuff that's expanded upon in the books, and there's some other scenes that the Coen brothers just didn't use for
Okay.
probably they didn't have time, or they probably just felt it was pointless. So
Sure. Yeah.
whatever, but
And so
it's a pretty strong
yeah,
adaptation, though.
yeah. But I mean, I was at a party this past weekend, and I was talking to somebody who is kind of getting into reading and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I'm reading a fantasy book right now for a series that like I don't know how I recommend Malazan to somebody who's like just getting into
Yeah.
reading. Like I feel like that's one of those series that like you really
Here's the
kind of
thing I
got to
always tell the
earn your
Malzahn fans:
stripes.
talk about the cool stuff, and then get that, and then snare them in.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, yeah. Malazan has been an interesting journey for me. Have you read it all? I know you've read at least some of it, but have you read all
I
of
have
it?
not read any of it. I am going to
Oh,
read
okay.
it. I'm going to read at least Gardens of the Moon next year and see how it goes.
Okay,
So
okay. I thought I saw something where you said you had read it, but I have had an interesting time with it. I really liked Gardens of the Moon, and then Dead House Gates was a struggle for me, and then Memories of Ice has been a good time. It's just I feel like I keep saying this, and every time I talk about it, but if I read 20% of Memories of Ice, it's like I read like a trilogy's worth of information, and
yeah,
I mean,
that's
that's a lot to consume, and it's already. I mean, it's a like the audiobook is 44 hours. I don't know how long the book is off the top of my head, but like it's a lot to like take in and consume, and it's not like it's the most straightforward series in the world either. So it's a lot, but
yeah.
I have liked it.
I've heard he throws a lot of stuff at you, and I'm like, well, I can. You know what? I'll just figure it out for myself because I've seen with Malzahn, it's kind of a love it or hate it kind of series.
Hmm. Yeah,
I, I'm sure there are mixed reviews of it out there, and that's fine, but it's not one of those where you'll get someone that'll be like, it's fine.
yeah, yeah. I'm probably more on the. I wouldn't say I love it yet. I definitely like it, but it is one of those series that's like, man, if you're just getting into fantasy, this is not where I would point you to. I feel like you've really kind of got to get your feet ready or get your feet under you to take on that series. Like I pointed somebody to the Cosmere first before I pointed somebody to Malazan.
Yeah, Brandon Sanderson's another guy I need to read. I know I'm a
Have,
bad. I'm
have
a
you read
bad,
any of his?
I'm a bad fantasy fan. I haven't read any of his work. I have thought about
Okay.
trying out Mistborn because it actually sounds
Hmm.
pretty cool. But
I think Mistborn the first time through is really cool. I don't know how it would stand on a reread, but I enjoyed it, and I hadn't read the Cosmere until last year. I read it all last year, so
oh wow,
I've been yeah. It
you
was
were on
quite the undertaking.
you were on the Sanderthon. I see.
It was it was the year of Sanderson with the Kickstarter, and I was like, well, I backed this Kickstarter, and I've yet to read any of his books, so
Yeah,
it's
I know.
time.
I know Laura also did
Yeah,
a Sanderson year or Sanderthon.
yeah, yeah. We actually we did a discussion together after we both finished everything
Yeah, she had you on
on all
your
the Cosmere.
stream series podcast, Love
Yes,
Bomb,
yes. I was also on that as well. Yeah.
and you were even on Brian's show.
Yes, I was. I had the bell toll for me.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's That's it was fun. It was fun. So yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, you're kind of popular right now, a little bit.
I guess so. I'm doing the rounds a little bit, you know.
Yeah, my thought is once I get on like Dear Doctor Fantasy or Chatting with Nuts, I'll be made. Like I'll be like,
Oh,
all
there
right,
you go. Yeah, yeah. You're a made man at that point for sure.
nobody can touch me at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
um, no, but I guess I should ask, what are you reading right now? If you're not reading anything, or if you are reading anything.
It's Memories of Ice.
Oh, how's
I'm
that
trying to
going?
finish it. I mean, for the most part, it's good. It's just I mean, it's a lot. I've been reading it for a while. I took a
That's one of the
break for a little
favorites. Like
bit.
I've heard a lot of people, say Memories of Ice is like pretty goated. So
Yeah, I mean,
my friend
I've
Colin, I
been,
remember specifically really enjoyed it, but it's
yeah, I'm at about 65%, so I still kind of have the last chunk of the book to get through. So we'll see. Right now, it's probably sitting somewhere like a low 4-star for me, which is about how I felt about Gardens of the Moon. So we'll see where that ends up. It'll be somewhere in that range probably.
yeah, no, it's I started Hyperion. I actually just got
Oh,
back to
okay,
reading it today.
nice.
It's pretty good actually. I haven't really gotten very far into it because I've been busy with
Okay,
college for the past 2 weeks. But
always fun.
um, it's really good so far. It's very different take on science fiction than I'm used to, really, which is
Yeah,
nice.
absolutely. That I had a pretty decent time with that book. There are definitely parts of it that I enjoyed way more than other
It's
parts.
a more, it's a more, it's more literary than something like a Heinlein, we'll say.
Okay, yeah, I haven't read any of his stuff yet, but it is very much like a literary science fiction book for sure. I can
Yeah,
definitely agree with
there's
that.
references to John Keats's stuff, and
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
characters even quotes Yeats at one point, which is pretty nice. I do like some of Yeats's stuff, so that was a fun
Hmm.
little call out for me.
Yeah,
Um,
and the structure of the book is obviously. I don't know if you've gotten to like the actual structure. I don't know how
oh
far in
yeah,
you are.
I just started the Priest's Tale, so
Okay, okay. Well, that is my favorite. I don't, not no, I won't go into any more detail than that. But that was my favorite of all of the stories.
yeah. I
So
mean, so far it seems like there's going to be religious angst in it, so I'm like, oh yes, I'm down for that. You know?
there you go. Yeah, I. So I had a pretty good time with Hyperion, and then I read, is it the Fall of Hyperion? That's the next one, and I struggled with that one a little bit more. I think that's maybe one that if I went back and reread it, I might like it more. And then I stopped there. I did not continue with the next two.
Yeah, it seems like a divisive one from what I've heard from
Yes.
other
Yeah.
people.
I know a lot of people who they read Hyperion and they're so happy with it that they just don't even continue. They're like, I'll just be happy with this as a standalone.
That's fair, I suppose. This is my
Yeah.
first Dan Simmons. I haven't read any of his work yet.
Mm. Yeah, it was the
I'm
same for me.
I'm liking it though. It's good. It's like, again, I haven't gotten very far, but it's very well written, so I'll
Yeah,
take it.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's very evocative, I would say. Like I can, which is the type of prose I enjoy the most. Is
Okay.
when you can sense it in a way.
Okay. Yeah.
Or as my friend Josh likes to say, "Oh, you like to hallucinate when you're reading." And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess so."
Oh, so you really like to be transported to what's going on.
Yes.
I mean that's completely fair.
Yeah, no, it's I like a lot of great imagery in books I read. So
Okay.
I'm a very
Yeah.
visual person. So there you go.
Okay.
Um, I am also reading. I got Moon Witch Spider King, which again I've kind of taken a break from. It's a bit dense. So.
Okay.
And I'm reading a comic called Astro City. So there we go. That's what I got right now.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. Let's see. I'm currently in the middle of a bunch of manga series, so like I'm kind of dabbling in those. One just ended this month, so My Hero Academia is a pretty popular one, but it just ended. The last chapter came out
Yeah, it's like
this month.
one of the 3 anime / manga I get recommended the most. Like that,
Okay.
One Piece, and like Full Metal Alchemist.
Oh, okay, yeah, those are three. I mean, One Piece is a different animal all unto
Yeah,
itself.
right. I'm like,
With
hell no.
yeah,
At least I'm gonna like hell no, dude. Like I'm doing,
it's
you know.
it's yeah. I mean, if I were gonna recommend some like manga, it would definitely be stuff that's a little bit shorter. If you're like, obviously you have a background or some experience with comics, and not that different than comics.
Yeah, it's just
So you're
backwards.
used to that. Yeah, yeah, but you're used to that visual storytelling at least. I know
Yeah,
some people
no,
kind of
it's
struggle with changing the mediums there.
yeah, it's like I've read Berserk, and that's a pretty long
Okay.
series.
Yeah.
So I stopped for a while after the Lost Children arc because I was like, God, I was screwed up. So I put it
Yeah.
down. I'm like, no
Yes,
more of
but
this for right now. I'm putting it
yeah,
down.
Berserk does not pull its punches. I love Berserk, but it's another one of those ones where it's like I don't know if I can recommend this to people. Like
That's another
the
one that's
first
hard to recommend. You know,
I mean, the
it's
first page of that manga is like, oh my god, what is going on? It's like I don't know, I can't tell people to read this.
I'll be like, okay, here's what I do. I go, okay, there's an arc called the Golden Arc, or the Golden Age. Start
Yep.
there.
Yeah,
Then read
that's
through
that.
that, then go back to the Black Swordsman arc, which is where the story officially started. That's where it
Yeah.
or not chronologically. That would mean that's where it started, the manga anyway.
Yeah, the publication.
The publication order, thank you.
Yeah.
And then read that, and then just keep going from there. Because
Yeah.
I've met people, and I even had this reaction. Because when I read the first volume, it seemed kind of edgelordy, and I was like, oh man, what is
Yeah, there's a little
this?
bit of that. Yeah,
And
I
it
can
definitely
totally see
seems like
that.
he's finding his steps a little bit because it does get better as the arcs move, as the first couple move along. So it
Hmm.
definitely feels like he's figuring out what works, or at least that's my humble opinion. I could be wrong. He could have had it, you know, in his head from the beginning.
Yeah, I don't know. The publication of Berserk is like an interesting thing to look in on itself. Like it's had super long hiatuses and stuff, and then obviously the author or the mangaka, is that what they call it? He passed away last year, 2 years ago. So
Yeah, 2 or 3 years ago.
yeah, and so obviously that again has interrupted like the publication of it and everything. And technically there's a new team behind it, even though it's like his best friend who's taking it on and everything. So we'll see what happens with it. It's one of those series that I wish it didn't have all of those problems with it. Same thing with like Attack on Titan. I know for the anime, a lot of people really struggled with the giant time gaps between seasons. And
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
also they just meme the crap out of Attack on Titan. I maybe it's just, and you can say I'm being a bit of a hypocrite here because I like superhero comics, but I do think the gigantic titans are kind of goofy. I mean, sure, it'd probably be scary if it were real and running at you, but I'm just like, it just looks
yeah,
weird. Like Japan has a unique sort of weird, you know. That's what
yeah.
I've
The Titans are
learned
definitely
from
a
reading
little
manga,
strange.
from
Uh,
watching
I
anime.
I think early Attack on Titan is some of the best manga you can read. I think it gets to a point where, for me personally, the big some of the big twists and things that happen, some of the big reveals, didn't work for me as well. So I've kind of been I was super early in on Attack on Titan. I don't want to sound like a hipster or anything here, but
It's fine.
I was super early on Attack on Titan. Like I started reading it in when it aired when the anime aired in the States in 2013. That's when I started reading the manga. So like I was like very early on in it. So I was chapter like waiting for chapters for like ever. I was caught up super quickly, and I think like I said, some of that early stuff and some of the theorizing and speculation is some of the most fun I've had in reading a manga, especially getting to be caught up with it was great to like be a part of the conversation at that point.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's some other ones that I've heard of, like Spy X Family. I have a couple of friends who really like that.
Yeah.
But you know, it's I'm really picky with manga, so there you
Okay.
go. Because like I find a lot of it is kind of silly. I know that's probably the intention of some of them. It could be
Yeah,
wrong. It
absolutely.
might just be the different style and the different country. I have no clue. But there's some like Naoki Urasawa stuff that I really dig. So
Okay, yeah, no, that
like a challenge to the audience. If there's any more manga like that has like more realistic artwork, hit me up. Though there are no Berserk is I like Berserk, and Berserk I wouldn't say has realistic art style.
Sure, but I know what you mean when you say that. Something like a Vagabond or a Vinland Saga would
yeah,
probably
you know,
be...
it's funny. I read Vagabond, the first volume, and I sadly I read it backwards because I was reading it the usual way. So I want to read it again because I was kind of like, what?
It's an interesting series, and it's a little bit of a frustrating series because it's one of those ones that's probably never going to be finished.
So we got ourselves a Game of Thrones situation.
It's better than Game of Thrones because the author had like an art exhibit basically in Japan that is basically the ending. There's just a lot of missing between the last chapter we get and that ending, but in a certain way, that ending is almost like cathartic enough that it's still really good. I think the ending, even with all of the missing stuff and all the loose ends, still really like I still think people should read it, even though it's not technically finished. You still kind of get an ending at least.
Yeah,
so it's not completely a Game of Thrones. Yeah,
I like I'm not against manga. I read at least the first volume of Lone Wolf and Cub, which is like a really old manga from like back in the day. It's really good actually. I actually have a volume in there. I started it, but then I quit because I was kind of burned out, and then I'm hoping to get back to it again. But I really enjoy Lone Wolf and Cub a lot. So
I'm really streaky when it comes to reading manga and stuff. So I'll go and binge it, and I'll read like 100 chapters in a month or something, and then I won't touch it for...
Yeah, I'm the same way.
A couple months.
I'm the same way, like with comics and manga. Like I'll just start reading a crap load of them, and then I'll just like stop for a while.
Yeah. I was into comics for a little while. When I was in college, I got into it. I was around New 52 time.
Yeah.
So
I was like
I have
13 when that was going down. So
okay, yeah. So I have a long box and a short box full of like, I have the entire New 52 run of Superman, and then all kinds of miscellaneous stuff, and I kind of got away from it. I thought a lot of it, I was trying to read too much, and then so many of the stories weren't quality enough. And so now I cover buy stuff. If I see a cover I like, I buy it, and that's pretty much the extent of my comic stuff now.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I remember the New 52 was a little kind of zigzagged in quality. Like there was the great stuff, like the Scott Snyder Batman run.
Yeah, the Aquaman stuff was pretty good. New 52 really upset a lot of people because it ruined the numbering. That was the big thing, because it messed up the Action Comics numbering because they restarted it. Yeah, but they restarted from 1 with the New 52, and so when Action Comics 1000 came out, which was supposed to be a big deal, I can remember being at the comic book shop talking to people, and they were like, "Yeah, technically the 1000th issue of Action Comics came out X many issues ago because of the New 52. This numbering doesn't mean anything anymore." And it was interesting to see like 60-year-old men be this adamant about this issue means nothing. It was an interesting time being a college kid in a comic shop, and then having these guys who have been reading comics for longer than I've been alive like go on a rant about none of this matters because of the New 52 and how much disdain they had for it.
Oh, I've ran into my fair share of older gentlemen who get upset about superhero comics, so I know what you mean.
Oh yeah.
Like the comic shop I go to is by my grandmother's house, so I'll go visit my grandma, and then I'll go to the comic shop. Yeah, no. Unless it's like free comic day, then like there's not a lot of people in there, so it's kind of nice. I can just kind of wander around and.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like comics a lot. Now, I mean, I generally read American comics because that's just what I grew up with and what I
sure.
generally.
And they definitely have a different storytelling style than manga.
For sure. Yeah, manga just. I'm a little salty that manga's blown up on BookTube as much as it has. I'm just like, my
Mhm.
God, like there's great American comics too, but
Yeah,
it's
I think the problem is the movies. Why people don't care to read the comics because they just are going to go see the movies. I think that's a big part of it. And then I think another part of it is how many people are like searching out their comic book store, their local comic book store. They're not going and doing that. So if I always tell people if they want to get into reading comics and stuff to try your library because a lot of times they'll have trades. And so you can read,
Oh yeah,
what is
for
that?
sure. I mean,
4 to 6 issues in one for free free from the library.
yeah, get like a trade or because I don't do single issues, but yeah, get like a
Okay.
trade or even an omnibus if you can score one. I
Oh
have read
yeah, yeah,
omnibuses at libraries, so
yeah,
I have them.
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think sometimes with the movies and stuff, people are like, I don't need to go read the story, I can just go watch the movie. But I tapped out on the Marvel movies at Endgame, and I think that I
Oh
made the right
yeah,
choice
no, I,
there.
I watched a couple of them after Endgame, and there was like Shang-Chi, which I really enjoyed a lot. I was like, that
Okay,
surprised me. But
okay,
um, but after like a couple of them, I'm like, yeah, you know what? It was a beautiful thing. Well,
it was.
it was a beautiful thing, you know.
It was
But
great, and I
it's
think they did themselves a disservice where if they had the restraint after Endgame to wait 3 years before they put out another movie and really planned out their next phase and included the X-Men Fantastic Four as the opening of some of that next
hmm
phase stuff, man, they it would have been great, but they didn't have that restraint. They didn't have that ability to look into the future and
But
see that
it's like
they're milking it dry.
yeah, no, I just kind of I'm letting it go at the moment.
Oh yeah,
The only thing I am looking forward to, that I am remotely looking forward to, is the Fantastic Four movie because I have a soft spot for the Fantastic Four. 'Cause that was
yeah,
some of
I
the
do
first
too. So
that was some of the first comics I read growing up.
yeah, that might be the one thing that might be able. If I hear that it's really, really good, it might be the one thing that can pull me back in. But I haven't watched. I think I watched Scarlet Witch, which technically was a TV show. I think that's the last thing I've really watched from Marvel.
Yeah, that's
And
fair. I mean, some of those like miniseries they did were actually pretty good. I was like, yeah, this
yeah,
is pretty good.
yeah,
And then I was
I
kind of
heard.
like, you know what? And then I saw some of them, and they were just kind of, and I was just like, you know what? I'll just separate for a while. You know?
Yeah, I did that with Marvel and Star Wars. I tapped out. I
Oh
tapped out on
God,
Star
yeah,
Wars
Star
too.
Wars.
So
I only get into Star Wars if like most people agree it's pretty good. So I watched Andor, and I was like,
hmm
it's pretty good.
yeah,
Um,
I have a buddy who keeps telling me, he's like, you stopped watching right before they put out something good. And I'm like, that's great. I'm happy for everybody who loves Star Wars. Boba Fett broke me as a Star Wars fan, and I'll never go back.
Yeah, it's kind of it was a little embarrassing. They kind of screwed themselves with Boba Fett because they did the old like Grogu and Mando coming back together, which that should have been the third season, to be honest with
Yeah,
you. But I digress. I was like, oh, why did you possibly do that?
yeah. I mean, I don't want to be overly like negative. That's kind of what I try to do, but I do tell people I tapped out. I'm glad if you like it. I'm so happy for you. I'm so glad. It's just not something I'm willing to spend time on anymore.
I know, it's just like the disappointment intensified.
Yeah, it's
When
like
they
I
got
can't be
back together, I'm like, that should have been the third season. Oh,
Yeah,
why did you
I can't
do
be
that?
disappointed anymore if I don't watch it, and so that's where my stance has been at. It's
No,
great.
and
There
then
are
the
some of the
Acolyte came out, and I was like, yeah, it looks fun, but doesn't look like it's for me. And I've just kind of,
yeah. See, I was so tapped out by that point. Doesn't even that doesn't matter to me
I am
anymore.
like Star Wars is one of my favorite franchises, so I have a deep
Sure.
fondness for it, so I can't fully let go. But right now, I'm just divorced from it because it's
It was one of my favorite series. I loved it.
we're
Everything
we're
about it,
we're
and
separated amicably at the moment. We'll say if I can use divorce
there you go.
terms.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I hope you can find your way back to them. I think I'm staying away. I tell myself whenever if ever I have children, maybe they'll be my entryway back into it because they're never going to stop. So that maybe I can introduce them to it, and if they like it, maybe I can get back into it. But
I
There are a
just kind
couple
of get annoyed
franchises
with the
like
Star
that.
Wars fan base. I'm like, look, there's some great animated stuff going on here, and you're not watching it, and it's kind of
Hmm.
like, come on, guys. But you know, I am not going into the Star Wars rabbit hole today.
Okay, yeah, we can stay. We can definitely stay away from it because I don't need
Let me tell
those
you, last
negative
time I went
feelings.
down the Star Wars rabbit hole on this podcast, it went for the rest of the went for the rest of the show.
Okay, yeah,
I mean, I
yeah,
enjoyed that conversation a lot, but I'm like, okay, not doing
yeah.
the Star Wars rabbit hole.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I feel you.
No, yeah, I see you have a good couple of books on here. You read Salem's Lot, did you? That's pretty good one from.
Yeah, I did. Funny enough, I think it's towards the bottom of my Stephen King ranking, but I've only read like his big like books, so it's like
Yeah, Salem's Lot is interesting. It's pretty good. Like I like it, but I think it does the concept that Stephen King was playing with a lot better, just in
okay.
terms of
Yeah.
the evil that there's this quaint little nice American town and there's the evil
Yes.
underbelly underneath that's gonna peek its head out.
Yeah,
I
and
think he
I agree with you on that because I think Pennywise is he feels like he's been there the whole time. This isn't like a new thing coming. Where in Salem's Lot, it kind of feels like that, where it's like a new thing coming. But
yeah
it's like this
yeah
aura that's
it's
always
kind
been
of
there.
I don't know how many movies you watch, but have you ever watched Fright Night?
I don't think so.
Oh, I was about to say it's kind of like Fright Night a little bit. It's and to be honest, I wouldn't be shocked if Fright Night was inspired a little bit by Salem's Lot, because it deals with
Hmm.
you know vampire moves in and everyone's like, oh, that's weird,
Yeah.
Except Fright Night's more campy than Salem's Lot.
Okay. Yeah.
Though I like Fright Night a lot, and also the remake was pretty good too. So
Okay. Yeah.
anyway,
I don't watch as many movies as I would like to, but that
anyway,
or TV.
I mean, I'm a bit tired of vampires. I mean, I like vampires, but I like them when they're scary. Now Sam's Lot, to be fair, has scary vampires, so there you go.
Yeah. No, I feel that's why I really enjoyed Empire of the Vampire. I don't know if you've read those by
That's
Joe
another
Kristoff.
one that's another one that's like kind of like Malazan, just split down the middle. There's no like
Yes. Oh.
meh reviews. Like you either
Yeah.
love it or you absolutely despise it.
Yeah. And you'll know very quickly. I don't know. Probably like I forget something very early on in book one happens, and if you get to that chapter, and you'll know pretty quickly if this is for you or not.
Yeah, no. My friend John pitched it because he did a review on his channel, John from Talking Story, and from the
Oh yeah,
sounds of
yeah.
it, it kind of sounded like it kind of sounded like Elric of Melniboné just with vampires, and I was like, oh, okay, that could be fun if he does it well. Because
Yeah.
I think Moorcock gets underappreciated, at least nowadays. I
Okay.
mean,
Yeah, I haven't read any of his stuff, so I can't say. But I will say, I really liked Empire of the Vampire and Empire of the Damned. The second book came out this year, and I think it was just a little bit better. They're pretty like say
but yeah, no, I mean,
similar.
I'm one of those. I'll try it and see how it goes, and if I
Yeah.
don't like it, that sucks.
Oh
But
well. Yeah.
I'm gonna try it at least. Like,
Yeah.
I get kind of irritated when people are like, I was mentioning this earlier, but like when people go like, you shouldn't read this book. It's really bad. Because then I'll probably
Yeah.
go, screw you. I'm gonna read it
I'm gonna
anyway.
read it. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I know what you mean.
I'm just like screw you, buddy. I'm gonna read it anyway, just because
Yeah.
you told me not to. So
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
be petty, ladies and gentlemen. But it's like yeah, no, but again, unless it's like the Turner Diaries or something that's like genuinely hateful or hurtful to society.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like one of my least favorite books of all time. Most people love it, and so I totally get.
Wait,
like,
what is it?
Circe by Madeline Miller.
Oh, yeah, I've heard a lot about that book. I know a lot of people like it. I'm not really
Hmm.
into Greek mythology that much, so
Hmm.
there's already kind of something dampering me from it. But also, it seems like one of those like badly done feminist retellings of like the Odyssey or something, and I'm like, oh man, that could so easily go wrong.
I always say it's like experiencing the world. It's experiencing Greek mythology the most boring way possible. Uh,
I'm
it's
more of
like
a Norse guy anyway, so there you go.
okay,
In
there you
terms of
go.
like
Yeah.
mythologies.
So have you read what is it? The Shadow of the Gods, Hunger of the Gods?
No, I was going to
Okay.
try. I was going to do Malice for this series I did, but then like I just lost interest in doing that series because I've realized I'm just not an animal that can get people to recommend me a book and I'll just read it. I just can't do that.
Okay.
I like planning things out a little bit at least. I try to give myself some flexibility, but I like to plan things out at least. And yeah, just
Yeah, I actually haven't read Malice, just his other one, and it has a lot of Norse like mythology and stuff.
But I am not against reading it because it sounds like type of fantasy I would like. So I'm not against reading John Gwynne.
Yeah, well, the last book comes out this in November, I believe. So
Yes, I've heard that. I know he had some personal issues he was dealing with, and he's come back.
yeah. Yep. So this is the return of that series, which I'm pretty excited for.
It's like the return of the master. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I tend to be wary with the real popular fantasy series, but there's a couple I've really enjoyed. Like I really like the First Law a lot, and
Okay.
at least the first trilogy. I've only read the first trilogy and Best Served Cold.
It's one of my blind spots.
Yeah, that's fair. I didn't read it for a long time either, so there you go. I don't blame you there.
Yeah.
But like I read the Gentleman Bastard books and really enjoyed those. Though the third book I wasn't really as fond of.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like Malazan and Wheel of Time. I haven't read those.
I'm a big Wheel of Time fan. So.
Oh yeah. Aren't you a Wheel of Time fan? That's
Oh,
great.
it's probably my favorite fantasy series. Yeah. It's it has flaws, and there are definitely like quirks about it that people are not going to enjoy. Some of that comes down to the writing
is the
itself.
slog real? Like, is the slog a real thing?
It's significantly overblown, in my opinion.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? Crossroads of Twilight. I mean, yeah, it's definitely like the worst book in the series, but the worst Wheel of Time books are, to me, obviously this is my opinion. A lot of people would disagree with me. I think the worst Wheel of Time book is still better than most fantasy books. And some of that will depend on which characters you can.
That might get some comments.
You know what? At me. We can talk about it. I think that some of it will really depend on what characters you care about, what plot lines you care about, because obviously this is a massive sprawling story. You're probably not going to care about everything. You're not going to like every character. Everybody's going to kind of have their differences in there. There are definitely like weaker books in the series, but I think it's significantly overblown. And I think the part of the problem is people talk about the slog so much that when people get to it and they already go in with this expectation that it's not going to be great, and so they. I think they let that sway them some.
I've heard a lot about Wheel of Time, both from people who like it and don't like it. I've just never felt the itch to read it. Maybe someday I'll try like Eye of the World at least and see what I think of it. But I'm not in any rush to read it.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure you've heard Eye of the World is an homage, to Lord of the Rings. It is very much distinct parallels, and people say that, and I don't think people point out enough the differences and how important some of the differences are. Just a quick example: there is a Gandalf-like character. Right off the bat, the difference is one, she's a woman, which I don't think is something that should be ignored in fantasy, and two, they don't trust her at all, which is completely different than the setup of Gandalf, right?
Yeah,
everybody
though, to
from
be
the
fair,
beginning
it was kind of established that Gandalf was like friends with Bilbo for a while.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's one of the significant differences is the Aes Sedai, the magical witches.
I mean, the idea of
the Wheel of
like
Time
secret, like I've heard there's like a secret society of like magical women. That sounds pretty cool, but like aside from that,
yeah,
kind of like. Eh.
I mean, I think it has some of the best character arcs in any fantasy series. I think if you look at who the characters are in book one and where their journey takes them by the time you get to the last book, it's pretty unparalleled to anything that I've read. Now, I think there are some series that probably would be in that same conversation, but I haven't read them yet. Like, I think a lot of people would point towards Realm of the Elderlings and say, look at the characters, the journey you go on, because you're with that character from the time he's a kid all the way through, to his like adulthood. But I haven't read that, and so I can't comment. But Rand, the main character, is my favorite character of all time. So
Yeah,
a lot of that's his journey.
my friend Josh, the same Josh I brought up earlier, is
Mhm.
actually a big fan of Wheel of Time. And I'm like, why do you like Wheel of Time so much? And he's like, this is my first fantasy series, dude. All right, cut me some slack. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
Fine. I won't take
Yeah.
that from. I haven't read it, so I'm not gonna make fun of you because I have no context for any of this. But
Sure.
you know what? If it's your first fantasy series, fair enough. I won't.
Yeah.
I won't.
Yeah,
give you
and
crap
I'm sure
for it.
there probably are a lot of people who have a lot of nostalgia for the series. I'm not one of them. I didn't read it until I was an adult, so it's not like it was my first fantasy series or anything like that. So
I mean, my first fantasy series was like the Magic Tree House. You remember those?
I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah, I should do like a childhood raids video where I talk about like the Magic Tree House and like Captain Underpants, which I read when I was like 10, when I was like a real little kid.
I remember Captain Underpants. Let's see,
They're
Magic
just
Tree House was
absolutely
one.
ridiculous. I remember I loved them because they were just ridiculous.
I don't remember. I don't know if I ever really read it. I can remember like seeing them in the library and stuff, but I don't think it was ever one that I like really dove into.
Oh man, there's fun things you could do with the illustrations though. I remember that those were always really fun. Yeah, Captain Underpants anyway. But I like the Magic Tree House because I liked history. I always liked history. So
yeah.
I really and they time travel back to historical events. So I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I do remember that. I've read a handful of those that I can remember. Maybe I read more, but it was so long ago at
I
this
remember
point.
the Civil War one and the Titanic one. And
Okay.
I think the one where they join Washington when he crosses the Delaware. And like that's it.
I also remember that one. Another one, the one that I remember the cover more than anything.
From the earthquake in like the early 1900s in San Francisco.
Okay, I don't remember that one.
Sorry,
I
didn't mean to
do
interrupt
remember. You. No, you're fine. There's one that has like a giant serpent on the cover.
I think I know what you're talking about. But I can't think of the name.
That's one I can't either, but that was one that I definitely liked.
But yeah, I also see you read Philip Chase's trilogy. I actually just had him on my channel like last week, talking about the Prophet of Edan. So yeah, that was fun. I read the first two. I'm hoping to read Return of Edan this upcoming month, which should be soon.
Nice. That was my favorite.
I don't think I'm going to be finishing Hyperion and Moonwitch Spider King anytime soon, so I might just say screw it and throw in
go.
Return
yeah,
to
go
Edan
for it.
In the
I was lucky enough to actually be in a discussion with him. It was him, Joanna, Murphy. Oh, I'm forgetting somebody. Oh, John from Talking Story was also there.
Yeah.
I think that was. Yeah, I think it was us. I don't think I'm forgetting anybody. Now I'm second guessing myself. But yeah, I was lucky enough to be in a discussion on Return to Edan.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, so that one is definitely my favorite. It's I think it's a really impressive book. Some of the technical things he did, and some of the things and some of the risks I think he takes as an author for things that I normally wouldn't like as a reader. He is able to do and pull off, which I give huge props to. For sure.
Yeah, no, I thought that I was really excited by the end of The Prophet of Edan because I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to see what he does after the ending of that book.
Yeah,
I'll try not to spoil I won't try to spoil for anyone who hasn't read it.
Yeah, I won't spoil it for you either, but just it is my favorite, and I
will
was really
say
impressed
it'll
on
get
what
you
he was able to
excited
do.
for book 3.
Yeah, yes, it will. Yeah.
And, well, that, or you'll probably be like, my god, what are they going to do in book 3? I mean, book 3 is a chunky boy, so I have no idea what they're all going to do.
It is. It's I remember when I finished the second book, I was really wondering where it was going to go, because it felt like if you rearrange some stuff, it could really be like a duology. And but then there was still this massive third book to come. and so I was super curious on what was going to happen. And like I said, I had a really good time with that book.
I know, right? You're just like, what is going to happen here?
Yeah, it's currently in my top 10 for the year. We'll see if it can stay in there. But
excuse me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've liked both of the books a lot so far. It's very much in that classic fantasy quest, you know, and the second one's more of the war. So, you know,
yes,
as I said in my video, it's the war book basically.
Mm-hmm.
Third one, it's one of those all bets are off. I have no idea what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
Though I guess it's the Aftermath book.
You'll have to see what happens.
I will. I'm not. I won't pry for spoilers.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. It's oh my gosh. Like, let me tell you, I always feel like when I have ambitious reading year plans, like they tend to just fall short.
Okay.
So, like this year, I was gonna read like a lot of like, and I've mostly gotten to them that I was planning on reading this year. But there's still a couple I need to get to, like the first Gorman Gast book, which I was going to do in September, but these books are proving a little bit dense and a bit long. Might take some time to finish up, so
yeah,
I'm gonna push that to like November. See,
yeah, that's a series I've been curious about for a while.
I need to tell D that because I'm gonna be doing a buddy read with my friend D for Gorman Gast.
Okay.
Though she's been gone for a little bit. Anyway.
Yeah, my big plan this year was to read as much of Malazan as I could. And we're going into September, and I've only not even read 3 of them yet. So it's you know,
apparently
it is what
dense
it is.
Reads.
They really are, and I say the same thing about Jenny Wirt's books, The Wars of Light and Shadow. That it's a series that deserves your full attention and respect, and like to give it your all when you're reading it, and that definitely makes it a little bit more difficult than some other stuff I read where it doesn't ask as much of you as a reader,
Yeah, she retweeted me the other day when I had that conversation with Philip about The Prophet of Edan. So,
oh, nice.
I was very pleased about that, even though I haven't read any of her books yet. So,
okay. Yeah, I'm actually going to talk about this a little bit in my wrap up later this week. But I was lucky enough; she actually sent me some books. So.
Oh, that was very nice
Yeah.
of her.
Yeah, very recently. They're actually right here. I got them on the floor. I haven't put them on my shelf yet, but she sent me a couple from Wars in Light and Shadow and To Ride Hell's Chasm. So, super excited about that. It's cool to get those because they can be really hard to find in in a physical edition. So, super cool. She's awesome. Yeah, I've really enjoyed her books.
I tend to prefer physical media, though. I like to experiment, with the upcoming years. So I'm actually thinking about doing, not really audio books as much, but I'm thinking about doing what people call immersion reading, which is where you... Which
my girlfriend
I'm
does that
hoping
a
you've
lot.
heard of it.
Yeah, my girlfriend likes to do that, so...
My friend Ben at Benghis Khan does that, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try it. I don't know if it'll work, but I'm gonna try it. See how it goes.
I tried it, and
I have an Audible subscription, and I'm like, I don't really have anything yet. So.
Yeah, I tried it, and I could see why it works for some people. It didn't really work super well for me, but I think it is definitely worth trying for sure.
Well, that's why I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, so, I mean, I am mostly an audio person. It just works better for me. I don't have a lot of time where I'm just sitting still.
You're not like getting gains and you're like reading a book at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is part of the thing. I have a lot of other hobbies that take up a lot of time, and so if I had to dedicate time of just sitting and reading, it's really hard for me to do. It normally gets relegated to right before I go to bed, and I just end up falling asleep. So
yeah, no, that's the thing about reading. You're reading and then you get tired and you're going to sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. My favorite thing to do is actually to just walk and listen to an audiobook. That's the best for me because
I want to give audiobooks more of a fair shake. I mean, I'm not against doing. I always tell people this. I'm not against audiobooks. I mean, I do prefer physical media, but I just get distracted really easily. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I think I was really lucky in that I listened to a lot of podcasts before I started audiobooks. So I had all of this training of paying attention to people talking beforehand before I went to audiobooks. And so it was kind of a seamless transition. It's just like reading, it's a skill. You're not going to be great at it the first time you listen to an audiobook. It's going to take you time to be used to getting information that way.
Now,
and so like listening to podcasts
there are exceptions to this, like The First Law by Stephen Pacey, or not by Stephen Pacey. Joe Abercrombie wrote them, but Stephen Pacey did the audiobooks.
Yes.
Now, I love the audiobooks for that series, and I actually listened to it after I read the series. I listened to it, I'm like, man, this is really good. Why didn't I get involved in that? But, I digress. I don't want to be one of those, I know you said you haven't read First Law yet, so I'm not going to be one of the fans that'll harass you to go read it. It's on
the list.
There's a lot of books out there. I
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I'm really bad about. I do this thing where I learn about books that I'm really sure I'm gonna like, and then instead of reading them right away, I'm like, I'm gonna save those for like the perfect time.
I'm the same way.
And so yeah, I've been doing it. First Law is an example of that. Sun Eater is probably the biggest example of that. I heard about Sun Eater before Book 3 came out. So, like, as far in the BookTube sphere, I was pretty early on that train. And for whatever reason, Book 6 just came out, and I still haven't started it because I'm so sure I'm going to love it that I'm just like, I'll get to it. It's a nice little treat somewhere in the future that I'll get to and get to experience it.
I will ask, so this is a bit of a non sequitur, but we were talking about Wheel of Time earlier. I will ask, what do you think of the TV show? Because TV show came out and it got a pretty divided reception from the fan base.
Yeah. So
I had to ask because I'm curious. I'm curious what people.
So
think.
I try to give the show some grace because they could not have caught the first season at a worse time. If like when they were filming that season is right when everything started to shut down. Mm-hmm. And so I try to give them some grace there, but that first season is really bad. It's bad. It does things that make no sense for what happens with the characters, where the characters go, any of their motivations. Things get all weird. And another huge part of that is one of the main actors of the show just disappeared. I don't know. He's kind of left social media completely. I don't know what in, all entailed there and everything. It seems like he just kind of quit acting and has moved on. And so that really put them in a bad place. Apparently they had to reshoot, rewrite a bunch of stuff at the same time as everything's being shut down and all kinds of restrictions. But that doesn't give them a complete pass for the absolute disaster that is season 1. I will say season 2 is better.
Monster. Okay, sorry. Continue your thoughts on.
Yes, I have.
Continue your thoughts on Wheel of Time.
Yeah, season 2 is definitely a step up. I think it kind of comes down to this isn't really an adaptation in the sense that I think a lot of people think of an adaptation. Like if I'm saying I'm adapting something, I'm thinking of you're taking the story and bringing it to a different medium. And they are in spirit doing that, but they are doing it in some very distinct different ways with different things that I'm just not really a huge fan of. I'm such a big fan of the Wheel of Time, I'll probably watch it until it gets canceled. But my enjoyment level has not been super high.
So. Yeah, no, I've heard a lot of really mixed things about the show, so yeah. I know.
Yeah, I would not recommend people to watch it if that's how they're going to experience Wheel of Time for the first time.
Oh no, I always try to go for the book first because I have done the movie first, and it's very rare you get a Shining or a Stalker situation where
Jaws
those
is another
movies
example.
are just so different from the original book where you can read them and enjoy it on its own.
Yeah, Jaws is another example.
Yeah,
you can add that onto that list. I read Jaws was I think last year.
Or Annihilation even, because Annihilation had a similar thing.
Okay, yeah, I haven't read Annihilation yet. It's one I'm very curious about that I kind of want to get to, but.
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually talking to my friend today about because we're gonna be talking about all 3 books, and he's doing a read along on his channel. So I talked to him about doing Authority today. So hoping we get that together soon.
Nice.
But I will going back to. So you have read Monster? That's
yes, good. I did. I read all Monster. Yep.
Did you like it?
I liked it for the most part. I think the ending's maybe not the best, but in general, I think it was a pretty decent series. I don't think it delivers on some of the things it tries to set up, but for the most part, I mean, it's one of those ones that I see why people talk about it the way they talk about it. But for me, a little bit of it's hard to say a letdown because I feel like that's a little unfair. It feels like I put like unnecessary like expectations on it. So it's good. It's fine. It's not like a new favorite or anything like that, but I had a decent enough time with it. Yeah.
I was about to say I love Monster a lot. So
Okay. Yeah. No, I totally see why
It's all-
people absolutely love it.
It's also probably because like it's a lot different from other manga I've read. I'm like,
Yes. Yeah, it is. It is definitely very different. I don't know. I think the ending's a little messy. I don't really love everything that happens there. I think it tries to send. I think sometimes it tries to be more clever than it actually is. Where if it had been just a little more straightforward, it actually would have worked better. But it. Like I don't, if somebody was like, "I'm going to read Monster," I wouldn't be like, "Oh, don't read that." I'd be like, "Oh, you'll probably have a good time with it." That's kind of where I would
Oh
come
man,
down.
I'm glad that I'm glad that you are also looking forward to a Dunk and Egg adaptation, and we're finally getting it. We're finally gonna
Yes,
get one,
I,
and I'm
I'm very excited for it. I think if you're looking at that video, I think I say in it that I think this could be the best adaptation of all of the ones they have done so far.
man. I
I
hope
think
so,
it
because man,
yeah, I think it is.
I really enjoy those stories.
Yeah, I think it's really uniquely set up to explore the world in a way that it hasn't been explored with any of the other things. Because we're going to be much more in with like the small folk, but still getting some of the high politics and everything. And I think we also have the opportunity to just see a lot more. I mean, if you look at Game of Thrones, you only see a couple locations. You're really only dealing with a couple families. If you look at the House of the Dragons, I mean, you're dealing with one family. All the it's one big family drama.
A very dysfunctional, insane family.
Exactly. But with Dunk and Egg, you're gonna get to see everything because they kind of go everywhere and do everything. And if they expand upon some things that happen, and there's a lot of great opportunity.
The Grey Mouser is how I try to describe it to people.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've read Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, but it's similar.
I have not.
Tone,
no.
Though
Okay.
not as horny as Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. I'll say that.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't read that one, so.
No, but I am looking forward to that adaptation. I'm hoping they don't drop the ball with it. I was a little let down with House of the Dragon Season 2, because
I was as well. Just a little bit.
It kind of dragged a little bit, and they
I
also
agree.
just introduced some stuff that wasn't set up before, and I was just like...
Yeah, I think there's definitely some pacing issues, and I think part of that is they...
Felt like a giant
where they want
tease
to
for the war, like instead of because the first season you're like, oh shit, stuff's about to go down, right?
Yeah, I think season 3 is really gonna like. The one thing I will say with season 2 being slightly a disappointment, I think part of that is so much is going to happen in season 3 that season 3 is going to be spectacular. At least that's my hope. I feel like season 2. I feel like season 2 they were like, we really kind of need to set this chessboard. And I don't think they did it perfectly. I think there are definitely some things that, could have been better. I do think that having maybe your best actor in Matt Smith, just like on LSD and Harrenhal, like
I call
maybe
it the
wasn't the best decision.
Hall, the
Yeah.
Haunting of Harrenhal episode.
Yeah, and it's like I get that like you don't know what's happening because in Fire and Blood, it's just like Damon went to Harrenhal, and it's like okay, I get that, and you don't want to sideline him
You could
completely.
have him do more interesting stuff than just tripping out on what the hell's going on in Harrenhal.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some interesting stuff that happens, and I think him. Okay, I won't say what I was about to say. I won't spoil the season for anybody, but I think there are some things that. I mean, there's some cool stuff, but yeah, in general, it was a fine season of TV, and I think season 3 can really deliver. Though I think it's okay to have this lull. If season 3, I will say I'm very annoyed that we have to wait like 2 years to get season 3. Like, I hate this new rhythm of TV we're getting, where it's like takes 24 months to do anything, and then another 8 months of like publicity and stuff before they release it, and then we're back to everybody just releasing stuff weekly because they want to make sure you stay subscribed. It's quite annoying. To
Yeah,
say the
no,
least.
it's definitely a yeah, I was just kind of let down. There was some great stuff though. Like I felt
Sure.
Emma Darcy really came into her own this season because I kind of
Hmm.
felt in season 1 she was a little stiff. She wasn't quite fully there yet in
Hmm.
terms of the character, but I really felt like she had some great like meaty moments in season 2. I was like,
Yeah,
damn, she's really
absolutely.
coming to her own in this.
Yeah,
It didn't
yeah,
feel like
definitely an
Olivia
improvement.
Clark where it kind of felt like she was settled in. I
Hmm.
guess at least in my opinion, there might be people who disagree.
Yeah, and I think that in general there was like a slight tone missing from season 1 or from season 2 that was in season 1, and I can't exactly put my finger on it. I don't know if it might even just be the way they like had their lighting and some of that and some of the camera angle work, because I know the person who did a lot of that stuff wasn't on season 2. He said, I'm doing season 1 and then I'm out. And I feel like there's just that little bit missing in there from season 2.
Yeah, I mean, not to say that season 1 was like a perfect masterpiece or anything.
Of course
I
not.
mean,
Sure.
you know, there were some like the beach scene was kind of dumb, but that
Hmm.
was just because they couldn't do it at night for whatever
Sure.
reason.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I digress. But
Yeah.
yeah, season 2 just was kind of like there were some great moments. Like I really liked Kristen Cole's monologue in the woods where he's basically just
That was a good scene.
giving
Yeah.
up on everything. I was like,
Yeah.
that was a
He,
great scene, guys.
sad boy Kristen Cole. You know.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I've you know I've hated this dude for like a while, and now I'm kind of like, oh, I feel bad for you now.
Oh, I'd never felt bad for him. He did this all to himself.
Well, though
But
I kind of go back and forth. Like I kind of like I do feel bad for him, but
mhm.
he's just he's such a he's so
that's
ugh,
a me thing.
ugh.
It's one of those things where
Have
I
you
have a
known
really hard
Kristen Cole?
time. No, but no, no, but I have a really hard time when authors try to redeem characters who I feel like don't deserve to be redeemed.
Oh yeah.
So, like sticking with Game of Thrones, when Theon, all the stuff that happens to Theon, I'm like, great. I wish more stuff happened to Theon. Like I don't care
That was one
how
of the
bad.
ones that actually kind of felt earned, because like my God, that dude goes through the ringer.
Good. I wish more bad stuff happened to him. I do not like. I
In the
don't
books,
care.
it's even worse. Like
I know. I'm glad. I'm glad I read those pages. I wish more bad stuff happened to him. He's a bad person who did bad things. I'm sorry. I don't feel bad now that bad things are happening to the bad person. I don't care. I'm glad. I wish worse stuff happened to you.
so,
That's
Kristen Cole's a similar way. You're just like,
exact. Yeah, I'm glad that I can't wait till bad things happen to him. I can't. It's gonna be
So
great.
wait, have you
I'm
read
gonna love it.
have you read the Fire and Blood book?
Yes, I
Oh,
have.
okay. So I was about to say, so you know what happens. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Some of it's fuzzy. I read it a little while ago at this point, so some of the finer details, I'd have to like Google it to remember exactly what happens to him. Actually, no, I'm pretty sure I remember what happens to him. But like some of the other characters, I'd have to remember. I have to Google and be like, what exactly happened to you again? But in general, I'm like, I can't. I'm so excited for bad things to happen to people who deserve it. And this isn't just TV. Like books, I'm like manga. Like they're
Yeah, like the
I love
like,
I love it.
and what sucks about the really bad people is I wish they get like worse than what they.
Exactly.
Like,
Like nobody
dang it.
like 10-year-old spoiler at this point, but like nobody felt bad for Joffrey. Like
No, I feel like Joffrey's
it's the
was
same
pretty
thing.
well earned though. I was like, he's
He was,
chilling
yeah. Well, and there
out.
was no redemption arc for Joffrey either, so that's not the best example because they'd never tried to redeem him as a character. But like, like the Theon trying to redeem him, bro. I wish worse stuff happened to you. You're a horrible person. You've made bad decisions your entire life. You're pathetic, and I'm glad everything happened to you. So maybe that's my hot take for
you're
for the
still
podcast
salty
today.
that he betrayed Rob.
Yeah, like
Took Winterfell.
you can't get away with that. Like you don't just look. I'm not saying people don't deserve second chances, but I mean like
Oh no,
sometimes
I'm not
you
saying
don't.
you're saying
You
that
know,
at all. I just think
no,
this
no,
is
I
great.
don't. Yeah, that's my little rant. I get like there's a character.
So you're on
you
the
haven't read.
you're on the Theon hate train. I hear you.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's not only the North doesn't forget, the North remembers. Tom Orange remembers.
Oh, I remember. I remember what you did, and I'm glad that bad things happened to you. Like, it's something I'm actually. I know you haven't read any of Sanderson, but this is very spoiler free. There's a character in Stormlight who I'm very worried about. Sanderson is going to try and redeem, and that's just not an option for me. There's nothing he could do. There's nothing he could do to redeem this character, and I'm really afraid he's going to try, and people are going to be like, "Yeah," and I'm going to be like, "This is horrible." I'm really worried. It's one of my biggest fears for Stormlight 5 in December that something like that is going to happen.
Yeah, I kind of felt a similar way about A-Train in The Boys. If you've ever watched The Boys.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was kinda, it's one of those. I'm like, he's made his bed. Why are you giving him a redemption arc?
Exactly.
I know what you're saying, though. I haven't watched season 4. Because YouTube and the rest of the internet can't help spoiling it for whatever reason.
Yeah, I have not. I still need to finish Invincible. Actually, I haven't gone back to The Boys yet.
No. What was I gonna say? I don't know if they have any redemption arcs, well, they're trying to do one for Nolan, but whatever you think about that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. I'll be
the Viltrumite.
The Viltrumites, exactly.
No, yeah, no, I know what you mean. I'm like, why are you giving A-Train the redemption arc? Oh,
exactly.
It's like giving the Deep. It's like trying to give the Deep a redemption arc. It was kind of funny because they kind of satirized that in season 2 when he gets like exiled.
Yeah, he goes through. Yeah, and he goes through that program.
He's just too much of a self-absorbed moron to change, and I'm like, that works. Like that makes sense. Of course, that would happen.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Like he's a selfish moron. You think he's just gonna change because some bad things happen to him?
Yeah.
Unless he gets like the Theon treatment, maybe. But I don't even know then.
Not for me.
No, but like, yeah, I know what you mean. Like, oh god, what is there even another example of a character getting redeemed? And
I have one, and it's one I hate more than pretty much any of them, and it's from manga. It's from Naruto. It's Itachi.
Oh,
Itachi.
I've not read Naruto.
The redemption arc of Itachi and the Itachi stands are the bane of my existence on the internet. Like, if you're an Itachi stan, you're no.
You're sorry for them.
I think you're just turning blind eyes to things that you just don't want to exist because you think he looks cool in the drawings. I think that's literally what it is. You think he has cool powers. Okay, he's a horrible person. There's no redemption for what he did. I don't care. Come at me. You're wrong. That's how I feel.
Yeah, no, there's just. Or if they tried to, like, going back to The Boys, like, if they tried to redeem Homelander, I'm like, no! He passed the moral event horizon long ago.
Exactly.
There's some things you just don't come back from.
That's a really good term, moral event horizon. That's a good one.
Yeah, I picked that up from TV Tropes, so thanks, TV Tropes.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a good one. I like that.
No, but yeah, he crossed the line a long time ago. There ain't no coming back.
Yeah.
Or at least in my opinion. I mean, I'm not against second chances either, but like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the plan. I don't think that's in the plan for Homelander.
No.
I paid attention to. Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
He's too much.
Have you read those comics?
I have. It's interesting. I actually think I'm one of those people who think the show is actually better done than the comic is.
I've heard that from some people. I've heard the comics got some like wild stuff going on.
Oh god, yeah. There's some really weird, wacky stuff in there.
Yeah, like some of the stuff that happens with.
I do love Billy Butcher though. He is one of my favorite Garth Ennis characters. So.
Yeah, I know within the comics some of the stuff that happens with Black Noir and Homelander. There's some weird stuff going on. Yeah. It's super different. So. Yeah.
No, they're good. I don't think it's some of his best work, Garth Ennis anyway. But it's good old fashioned fun. It's also in bad taste, so keep that in mind.
Sure, yeah.
That dude he loves bad taste humor. So Just prep yourself.
That makes
for
sense. I've seen some. I've seen panels and stuff from it, and that
I was
makes
about to
a
say,
lot of sense.
if you think the show is like bad, like the comic is like 2 times like up
Yeah.
the ante.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyway, it's a good comic though. I like it. I understand people who don't like it because again, it's so excessive. That's a good word for it. It's excessive.
Yes. Yeah. That makes sense.
But yeah. So what other books have you read this year? Because I'll admit, there are so many BookTube channels out there, it is hard to keep track of all of them.
It is. That's actually one thing I have noticed since making a channel. Some of the time that I used to go into watching other people's channels and stuff is taken away from doing my own. And it is, there's so many great channels and people out there that I try to keep up, and, I like to comment and talk with people. It can be not the easiest thing to do, to keep up with everything. But let's see, some of the highlights from this year. So, Misery, another one from Stephen King. War Host of Vastmark from Janny Wirtz. That's book 3 of Wars in Light and Shadow.
I'd say
the Philip Chase books.
I'd say Misery is one of his best books. Probably one of his most tightest books.
I had a great time with Misery. If it wasn't for Pet Sematary, it would be my #1 King book right now.
Yeah, and, I don't know if you've seen the movie, but
no, I've seen
the
clips
hobbling
of
scene
Misery.
is even worse in the books than the movie.
Yes, it is. Yeah, so that is one of the scenes I have seen, and it is definitely worse in the books.
At least she breaks his legs in the movie. In the book, it's 20 times worse.
Yeah, it's significantly worse. Let's see, what else? I have read from probably my favorite author, Session Liu. He's the author of the 3-Body Problem, that trilogy. I read some of his other stuff. I read, it's called The Cretaceous Pass and Supernova Era. And it was just, I don't know, he's not an author that probably works for like 90% of people, especially some of his other stuff. Like 3-Body Problem has a pretty wide appeal, and I think a lot of people have enjoyed that series. But some of his other stuff I don't think it has that same mass appeal, but it works for me, and I think that has kind of solidified him as my favorite author. But I enjoyed those. It's wild ideas. If you like idea-based fantasy or sci-fi, he's somebody you should read.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've heard he's like a Arthur C. Clarke type of character, where, not get the deepest characters in the world, but
yes.
You will get some really thought-provoking concepts.
Yeah, the 3-Body Problem, the Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy, like, legitimately changed the way I think of, like, the universe and things like that. And I don't think there's a lot of books that, can be on that level, right? There's only so many of those that will ever be written.
Yeah, that was me with, like, Childhood's End by Arthur C.
Okay.
Clarke.
Yeah.
Damn!
Yeah, and so, like you said, you're not going to get the deepest characters. I think his flat characters, it's slightly over-exaggerated. A lot of them are, like, a vessel for ideas, but there is a few characters that get a little bit more depth than people like to say. Now, the 2 books I just mentioned, so, for example, the Cretaceous Past, I don't think there's a single named character. They're all dinosaurs and ants. Yeah, so the premise of the book is that the Earth has been around for so long that the idea that humans are like the only species to develop this level of intelligence is just probably wrong. And so in the story,
dinosaurs.
Yeah, and so dinosaurs and ants form like this symbiotic relationship that starts out with ants eating food out of dinosaurs' teeth because it had a toothache. And yeah, right? And by the end of the series, or by the end of the book, you have like spaceships going into outer space.
That sounds so...
So, it's one of those books where...
What a hook.
Yeah. Now, like I said, it's an idea-based book, and the one thing I really enjoy about his books is it explores the idea to a level that is almost obsessive, and he treats his ideas very realistically and with a lot of respect. So it's not like funny, jokey, haha. He's like, no, these dinosaurs used ants to help build a society with like skyscrapers and trains and cars. Like, he explores it.
I'm sure it's serious, but just that idea just sounds so.
It's hilarious.
Like,
it's preposterous, right? But
so
when you
preposterous.
take somebody who's as smart as he is and actually like attack the idea and like fully flesh it out, I think it's a really fun time.
I am gonna have to check that out just based on that idea alone. I mean,
Okay,
I don't know
yeah.
if I'm gonna laugh at it, but I'm gonna think something about it.
It's not a super long book either. So it's it's not like a huge time commitment or anything.
Like,
the Cretaceous Pass.
That's fantastic. It's not even
Yeah,
long.
yeah. It's not a super long book or anything. So it's not like it's a slog to get through or anything like that.
Preposterous. I've forgotten all about that word. I like that word. It's a good word.
Yeah. Yeah, and then let's see. I've read some other stuff. But those are some of the highlights for sure.
Throat's dry. Oh God, what have I read this year? I read Kindred and Lonesome Dove, and I've loved both of those
Yeah.
a lot. Lonesome Dove I read last month, and it was really good. And
I've heard so many good things about it.
I did a buddy read with some friends of mine, and it was fun. So
nice. Yeah.
In Kindred, of course, I really liked a lot. It's still my favorite book of the year so far.
Okay.
I read a book called Only Killers and Thieves, which I really liked, which is a Western, because I'm working on something right now. That was really good. What else? I really like The Crossing a lot. It's one it's grown on me. I was kind of like, oh, okay, and then I kind of... It just settles, and you think about it, and you're like, oh, man, that was messed up.
Yeah.
As you do with the McCarthy work.
That is... Yeah, that's for sure. That's like my reaction to Blood Meridian is probably not what it should be. And I say that I liked it, but there's so much going on in that book that I don't think I was ready for at the time, that I think it's a book that would really benefit.
I don't blame you. It is not
an
easy one to get into, It's very...
Yeah.
Like, it's weird. It's very straightforward in what it's talking about, but it's written in such a way you're just like...
Yeah.
You kind of have to, the tilt. You got to tilt your head a little bit.
Yeah, and so I think it's definitely one of those books that if I reread it, I would get a lot more out of it, but I don't really reread books. So who knows when that'll ever happen.
I'm the same way. Unless it's a book I really freaking love and just want to experience again, like Blood Meridian, or if it's like a book I felt like I didn't get, and I might just try it again.
Yeah. The only book I reread every year, Christmas Carol, like either Christmas Day, Christmas Eve.
That's a good one to reread. It's pretty short, so...
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it takes like no time at all to get through, so...
Yeah, I like Dickens a lot. He's good.
Yeah, I do too. I've read I wouldn't say a lot of his stuff, but some of the stuff, and I've always enjoyed everything I've read from him.
Yeah, like Oliver Twist is one of my favorite stories of all time. So there you go.
Yeah, that's one of the ones I have not read that I feel like that and A Tale of Two Cities. I like the two.
That's all right. I haven't read like David Copperfield or...
See, I love David Copperfield. David Copperfield's great. That's a great time.
I want to read it so bad. Or,
yeah.
Oh God, what's some other ones from him? He's one of my favorite authors. I'm blanking at the moment. Great Expectations. I haven't read that either.
I haven't either.
I'm quite sad about... I'm sad about that one, and I'm sad about David Copperfield, because a lot of people love David Copperfield.
Yeah, David Copperfield is... And it's one of those ones where you start with a character from the time they're like a child to like adulthood, and so you kind of get like the whole gambit of their life, and it's a really good time.
Yeah, Dickens is good at that. Though on Oliver Twist, it's about a kid going on a... I guess I said this on a previous podcast, but like I like stories where like kids go on weird adventures.
Okay.
Into the city,
Mm-hmm.
like Oliver Twist and Tom Sawyer, and I had a friend of mine.
I love Tom Sawyer.
I had a friend who joked with me. So he's like, "So that's why you like Blood Meridian so much?" I'm like, "Well."
Have you read Boy's Life?
I have not. I want to though. I'm
Yeah,
actually
if you like some of that like child adventure kind of stuff, I think you might really like that one.
I am hoping to read Speaks the Nightbird this
Oh,
October.
okay,
So
nice, yeah.
because and my friend John is very, or John from Talking Story is very excited because he loves that series.
Okay, yeah,
I'm looking
I haven't
forward
read
to it.
that one either.
I read like the first
Yeah,
line, and it took a lot of willpower for me not to just keep going.
just go, yeah, yeah. I really liked him as an author. I've only read Boy's Life from McCannon, so I'd like to read some more. I think the next one I'll probably read from him is I kind of want to do Swan Song and The Stand by Stephen King. Those are two books that get compared.
The Stand's a good one, though I will warn you, the climax of that book is a real deal setter for a lot of people.
Yeah, I've heard that. I'm somebody who doesn't get too caught up on endings, so
Fine.
yeah, exactly. I think endings can be really
But the
overrated. And people
journey
put
and
too
how it goes
much.
from post-apocalyptic story to epic fantasy novel, I think, is very impressive. It still holds up pretty nicely.
Yeah, and so that the journey is more important for me. Like a book can have a pretty bad ending, and I'm still going to be like, I still had a really good time with this book. Now, sometimes I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth here because a really good ending can kind of save a book. But for me, like a bad ending doesn't destroy a book the same way it does for some people. I think that's why I'm okay with reading series that don't have endings. Like somebody like will tell me that, oh, don't read what is the Rothfuss book, Name of the Wind. They'll tell me not to read it because it's not finished, and I'm like, I don't need it to be finished. If I enjoy those two books that are there, I enjoy the two books that are there. It doesn't matter. Same
Yeah,
thing with the Game of Thrones.
what's that series called? King Killer Chronicles? That's one of those
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of mixed things on as well. Not even just...
Yeah,
I've heard either
yeah.
people go, first one's great, second one not so much, and then I've heard people go, oh, it's just a bunch of bullshit, power fantasy crap.
Yeah,
Which,
it's not one I've read, but it's just kind of one of the examples. I know Scott Lynch and the Gentleman Bastard series is another one where it's like, oh, don't read that. He's never going to finish it. It's like, oh, does it matter if the other books that are...
I mean, you can read... You could read those a lot easier than you could, like, Game of Thrones, because aside from, like, continuity, they're mostly standalones.
Okay.
Like Red Seas Under Red Skies, you could read it without reading Lies of Locke-Lamora. At least I think so.
Okay.
No, I don't. I read in chronological order because that's
sure.
I like doing that.
Yeah. But yeah, that's just some examples of like endings don't need to be that important for me.
I'm reading an unfinished series right now, and that's the Moon Witch Spider King. And it's from the Dark Star trilogy. I'm only waiting for the third one to come out. Which
what's the first book in that one? Was that
Black Leopard, Red Wolf?
Okay, I almost had them mixed up.
No, it's fine. People, it's one of those. That's another one that's hard to pitch to people. We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah,
it's like, man, I love it, but I can understand why people would bounce off of it because it's very like. It's not what people are used to reading. A lot of it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Is it more of like an Eastern fantasy kind of series? Is that series?
It's based on like African lore and
Okay. I couldn't remember if that was an African setting or an Indian setting. I couldn't remember which
one
of the
called
two.
Sons of Darkness that is apparently a Indian setting. I just haven't read that yet.
Okay.
Though it was pretty
maybe
fun the other day. I was at the bookstore and I saw it and I was flipping through it and there's Philip Chase. It's blurbed right there.
Oh, that's cool.
It's pretty fun.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I was thinking about posting it and being like, "Look at you, Philip. You're in the bookstores now."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I made a bit of a whoopsie with Return to Edan. I bought Return to Edan first before I got Prophet of Edan. So that was,
oh no.
That was awkward. But
Yeah, that's the audiobook should be coming out soon for those, or for the first one.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. That's one of the great mysteries of fantasy literature. When is Game of Thrones coming to an end, and when's Alan gonna do the book? When he's gonna do the audiobook?
Yeah, I heard that apparently it's like in editing. So
though, hey, at least The Dan series is finished, so
Yeah, he's got a he's. I forget if Philip said he had finished writing the last one and was editing it, or was still. I forget, but there's going to be a like. There's this trilogy, but then there's going to be a book after called While Darkness Gathers. I hope I'm getting that right. That sounds like
right.
very close to what
actually,
he said.
Again, I did talk to him last week, and I think he
Mm-hmm.
said he didn't say anything about when he's releasing it, but he did say it was done. So. We'll see
Oh,
how it
okay,
goes.
cool. Yeah, I know he's got some stuff going on with Broken Binding right now, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Have you thought about? Should I? I don't even know if I should ask this, but have you dipped in to the Broken Binding business?
No, and I'm very upset right now because they have their subscription model, I guess, right? And the wait list is like 50 years, so
Oh
I probably won't be able.
God.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it is, but I've heard it's like really, really long and super hard to get onto. But their next science fiction book is going to be The Three Body Problem, which is my favorite series of all time. And the editions look amazing, and I have no idea how I'm going to be able to get one, so I probably just won't.
Yeah, I
Which is
generally
really sad.
I generally don't do vanity buys. I don't get books that'll be like, that looks good on my shelf. I don't generally do that. Most of the books I get, I'm planning on reading them. Now,
Sure.
when I'll do that, that's another question. But I
Sure.
generally plan to read them.
Yeah, because so many of my books I get on Audible, I really only buy books that I really like. So I have a Folio Society edition of my favorite James Bond book, and so that's super cool to have. If I could get my hands on the Three Body Problem one, that would be great because it's my favorite series. But in general, I don't just go and buy books. For
Well,
no reason.
there is one exception. That's my Shakespeare book over here because I like Shakespeare a lot.
Nice.
So,
Okay.
yeah. And I also really like this book copy. So
Yeah.
though they do have in the Broken Binding anyway, they do have Perdido Street Station and the Scar, and I am really tempted to pick those up because they actually have good deals on them. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, I'm actually the only other thing from them that I'm pretty tempted on doing is I think you can just buy. They have the first 3 Malazan books, and they look awesome. And I think you can just go on their website and buy it. And so that has been tempting, but it's one of those things where I don't really need the physical ones. I'm not a huge physical edition person. They can be really nice to have, and if that's the only way to consume the book, then obviously that's one thing. But it has been tempting. I do every now and again. I go on the Folio Society and just look at how nice those books are, and
Yeah.
and I'm like, man, if that shipping from the UK wasn't as expensive, if not
Oh
more
my
expensive
God,
than the book
the
itself.
prices of the Folio Society is ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
I saw the ones they did for Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which I actually read I finished it not too long ago.
Mhm.
Has those illustrations by Charles Vest. I was like, damn you, why is it $200?
Yeah.
You guys
Yeah,
suck.
so I think the James Bond one I have, it was $75.
Oh, okay,
but
that's
then
not bad. They're usually in
No,
the
no.
hundreds.
yeah, but then the shipping on top of it, it was a Christmas gift, so I don't know exactly how much it was, but apparently it was just as expensive, if not more expensive than the book itself. And so it's I'd love to have the whole collection of the James Bond books, but it's ridiculously expensive to make that happen. So it's just not going
I thought
to.
I saw you liked some James Bond. Believe it or
Yeah.
not, as much as I love the 007 movies, I've still yet to read the books.
I think the books and the movies, well, it depends on what era of movies you're talking about. Some of the
I know
earlier
they're a
ones
lot
are
different.
similar enough.
Or at least
Some of
they
the earlier
vary.
ones are similar. As you get further down the timeline of movies, they become their own thing for sure. I think some of the books are really, really good. Some of them are not worth their time. Some of the other problems is, obviously, they were written by a British dude who was born in the 30s, or maybe even earlier. I forget exactly when Fleming was born, but this is somebody who, the stereotypes about women and minorities are very much on the page there, and so. I know for some people that's just a no-go, and so they'll never want to read those books, and I totally get that. And if you are somebody who can read that and be like, that's bad, even, especially now, obviously even at its time, technically it's bad, but if you can like get past some of those, there's some really fun like spy thriller stuff that's going on in those books.
Yeah, maybe I did read Casino Royale.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah.
I think I saw you have a video about like Death of the Author. I watched that the other day, and I think Fleming is like a really good. Yeah, I think Fleming is a really good example of like kind of what you're talking about, where it's like, can you ignore the things that are in his books because that's actually how he felt in his real life too.
Yeah,
like,
it's. I mean, my example is H.P. Lovecraft because he's kind
sure.
of an easy example. Cause,
yeah, absolutely.
Though, to be fair, a lot of his more egregiously racist stuff is in like his personal letters.
Sure. Yeah.
Or,
no, I mean like there are some
stories like the horror at Red Hook.
Okay, I haven't read. I've only read one H.P. Lovecraft, but I thought that video was super interesting just because I think there's so many layers to that onion.
I know.
Because
it's
one of the you can talk about. Yeah, because it's like obviously authors are not like a stagnant person, so they can change over time. So when they wrote one thing, that doesn't mean in 20 years from now they're the same person they were when they wrote that. And so you have like all of this stuff going on because people are complex and things change and times change. And so anytime somebody talks about that subject, I'm always interested to hear what their thoughts are because it is such an onion.
A few years ago that John Green, who's written books like Looking for Alaska and The Fault in Our Stars is probably his most famous one. And
Fun fact, one of those was it The Fault in Our Stars? Was filmed at my high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, fun. I'm pretty sure it was Fault in Our. I forget which one. One of his books, my high school was used to film some of the scenes. So fun fact.
But yeah, I remember him going like, "Yeah, I used the word retarded in one of my books. I'm not gonna be doing that anymore." So there you go. That
yeah.
There's a good example.
Yeah, like that's
just talking about.
Yeah, I always think of it like this. I think an author could come out now and write an entire book about how AI shouldn't be like seen as a person. I could see in the evolution in the next 75 years where there's a push to give artificial intelligence like their own sovereignty basically. Mm-hmm. And you could go back in 75 years and go back to that book and see like how different times have changed.
Yeah, and just be like, ouch.
Yeah, exactly. Because, and I think people will maybe laugh at that idea, but I don't think it's all that crazy with the advancements in technology that at some point people are going to start to argue that these are their own beings that deserve these things. And there's going to be groups of people who push against both sides. And that's like my go-to example of some of this stuff because it hasn't happened yet.
I mean, as I said in the video, my thoughts are more like the author and the audience are kind of meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. For sure.
So, because I don't want to denigrate, because I don't want to just go like, okay, it's the author's perspective. That's the only one that should count, because I don't believe that. But at the same time, I do think their perspective should be considered, at least.
Of course, yeah.
They wrote the thing, or they, did whatever to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Painted it, filmed it,
Sure.
Wrote it, however you want to call it, drew it,
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I think. So it's kind of I guess I'm surprised no one made this argument in my comments section, but I guess I do kind of want to eat my cake or to have my cake and eat it too.
I actually really liked what you said about that, about how I'm going to mix it up exactly, but like you do get to have both of it because you have the author and you have you as the reader. You can have both.
Yeah, and sometimes there's books that are so good, and I mentioned this in my video, so I don't want to retread ground here, but there's some, books that are just so good that the original meaning kind of, goes past what the author was initially going for.
Sure.
And people make their own interpretations that you can look in the text and you'll be like, yeah, you can make a good argument for that.
Yeah, there are definitely stories that become, no matter what the author does, they're bigger than the author.
Sure.
And it doesn't matter how. I think a really good example is Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling.
Uh-huh.
Whatever you think about what she has said, and that's not important to the argument. Harry Potter itself is so much bigger than her that she could basically do anything, and people are still going to look at those books and be like, I love them. And that, I think that's an interesting example.
Yeah, what kind of makes me sad about like fantasy tube or whatever you want to call it, a lot of them don't take Harry Potter that seriously. It makes me kind of sad because I really like Harry Potter a lot. So
yeah, it's a series that I have thought about rereading because I haven't read it since I was a kid, and I still have really fond memories of it. It's kind of one of those like foundational series for me. And my girlfriend reread it last year. It was either last year or 2 years ago, and like as an adult, and she was like, "Yeah, it's still amazing." And so it's kind of one of those ones that I've been thinking about rereading, even though rereading isn't normally my thing.
Like I love Game of Thrones.
Yes.
That was a foundational one for me, and I'm thinking about rereading them. I don't know when, but I would like to see how they hold up.
It's kind of how I feel. So I don't know what you think about this. I'm still in the camp that we will get Winds of Winter. I don't think I'm not saying the series will get finished. I don't think we see A Dream of Spring or A Dream of Summer, I think is what the working title is. But I do think we can get Winds of Winter.
Yeah, I've just
I don't know what you
caring
think
at this point, but I do agree with you though. I do think we will get some. I'm kind of in Jimmy's camp from Jimmy Nuts,
Mm-hmm.
I think that we'll get some form of Winds of Winter. Dream of Spring, I have no clue, but
I don't think that one happens. But Winds of Winter, I think if I heard that it was coming out, then I would reread it because what I read. I don't remember exactly when I read it, so how I remember it is I knew about the Red Wedding before it happened on TV because I had read up to that part, so that kind of gives you the timeline of when I started reading it. And so it's been, a while since then. I could use the refresher. I actually watched the TV show 2 years ago for the first time. I had never watched it, so that was kind of a refresher, but obviously the show doesn't have everything the book does, and there are different plot lines and some threads that get left.
Plot lines entirely. Like they got rid.
They combined some characters.
They got rid of Griff and young Griff.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. So obviously, I wouldn't. If we got confirmation that it was actually coming out, I would do that reread for sure.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm more curious on if it's held up because there were some passages of it I read like a few months ago, and I'm like, damn, I forgot all about this. I
have a feeling it holds up. I think it's one of those series.
I need to get back to this. I need to.
Yeah, I think it's one of those series that it's so good that.
Like I completely forgot the Tower of Joy scene was in the books. Like I just.
Okay.
Like for some reason, I was watching season 6, and I just completely. My mind was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's probably all kinds of small, intricate details that I forgot. And going back on a reread, I would be more familiar with some of the stuff that's going on, so I would probably be better at catching some of those small details that I'm sure I missed the first time around.
For sure, yeah. But it's one of my favorite fantasy series. So.
Yeah.
Have you read all of them? All the Game of Thrones?
Yeah. Yeah, I've read them all. Yep.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually, how I got back into reading after college was I wanted to finish the series. So
you jumped in. I think, like, all right, I might need to go back and reread them.
Yeah, I didn't even go back and reread them. I think I just read A Dance with Dragons. I think that was the only one I hadn't read yet. I think I had read up through A Feast of Crows, and then didn't read. I probably read like one book in college, and then I was trying to read. I had the physical editions, and this is actually how I got into audiobooks. Is on my lunch breaks at work, I also wanted to walk because I work in an office, so I sit all day. And so at lunch, I wanted to walk, and I would try to read and walk at the same time in my parking deck, and that just was not working. And so that's actually how I started audiobooks.
I've listened to some of the Game of Thrones audiobooks, and I don't know, I just can't get past the fact that the dude sounds like a grumpy old man.
Oh, he's I don't know if you can find it, just listen to him when the horn blows at the wall. It is hilarious how it sounds. It is so funny. It's one of my fond memories of listening to that audiobook.
I'll have to look that up.
It's so funny.
On YouTube.
It's so funny listening to him blow the horn.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah,
But yeah, like there's
it's
some books
pretty
next
funny.
year. I'm like, man, I might do the audiobook and see if I can like immerse read. See how that goes.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. If you want some suggestions for books that are really good on audio, Project Hail Mary, great audiobook. Pretty much anything by Ray Porter is fantastic.
I
A
like The
lot of
Martian.
the it probably has the same narrator if I had to guess, because normally
No, I'm just
authors
saying
stick to
I
it.
liked The Martian, so I might check out Project Hail
Yeah,
Mary.
no, I only watched the movie The Martian, but Project Hail Mary, I mean, is such, and I think that is one of the rare books that the audio version I think enhances the reading experience, and I can't say why because it's a massive spoiler for the book, but if you can only get if you can only consume that book in one way, audio to me is the better way because it enhances the writing itself.
Oh, for sure. I'll have to. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm reading Project Hail Mary next year though. There's a bunch of other books I want to.
Ah, man, the TBR never gets smaller.
It never ends. My
It's
God.
never smaller.
Oh, that is.
I don't know if this happens to you, but just the other day I was looking at my Kindle and I was like, what book is that did I buy? So I had to re-Google it and be like, why is this here? Why did I buy this? And it's just because it's probably on sale, super cheap, and I was like, let's go for it.
Oh man, that's. Oh. That's. I don't think that's happened though. I have bought books because of the cover. Like for instance,
Oh yeah.
let me, I'm actually hoping to read this with Liam from Liam's Lyceum and T from an Erudite Adventure. But I ended up getting Gene Wolfe's The Wizard Knight because my God, look at this cover. I love it.
Yeah.
I just
That's nice.
it's like a medieval painting. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really good. I generally don't get like book omnibuses because I don't know. It just feels weird to me. But
I'm right there with you. I completely agree.
but I
Yep.
made an exception. They're growing on me. I'll say that they're growing on me.
I don't know that I'm totally with you though. There's just something a little weird about having like 4 books in one book. It's just like
Yeah, it's like God. We're gonna figure out now. Lucky with
Yeah.
like the Wizard Knight, it's only 2 books, so I'm like, okay.
yeah, that's not as bad, but like yeah, they'll put in like 5-6 books sometimes in some of those omnibuses.
Yeah, like I'm thinking about getting the Chronicles of Amber because
Yeah, they stuff those all
those
together.
Now those are 10 books, but they're not very long, so it just
No,
kinda-
they yeah, it's like an 1100 page book, but there's 10 or 11 books in it, so it's like they're all like 100 pages long or something.
yeah, pretty much. I'm just you know.
Yeah.
I also got a Veraconium, so I got that. So again, it's growing on me. I generally don't
Okay.
do that though.
Yeah.
It's just weird. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I have to go through all these.
I got to remember where I was and just like got to update the Goodreads even though it's still the same book.
Yeah, pretty much. It's yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, imagine they did Game of Thrones as an omnibus. Oh.
Well, you know what's funny with some of those long series like that, like I know they do this for the Cosmere, they split them up into smaller books. So like for the Stormlight Archive, because they're all like 1,000 pages long, you can get like pocket editions of them, but the first book is like 2 or 3 small books.
Now I will say, kind of coming full circle to the comics talk we were having earlier. It is really nice getting omnibuses in comics, so you don't buy all the
That
just
you know
single volumes.
that is very true. Yeah, like I said, I've
Like-
got like a long box just full
Let me
of
tell you,
comics, and
like-
it's like why aren't these all just together?
I got 3 of these big Invincible books because I didn't want to go through the effort of getting all the volumes because that
Yes.
probably would have been even more money.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Worth it as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, Nick from another BookTube channel. He's semi-retired from BookTube at this point, but he is really into comics, and he has started to like self-bind his own comics into omnibuses. So he'll have like runs that he then makes
Wow.
into his own. It's super cool. He has some videos on it, and it's pretty cool.
Another book too. Oh yeah, I think I know this guy.
Okay, yeah. He's I say he's semi-retired. because I think he still is putting out the occasional video, but I think for the most part he's like, somewhat retired.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
That's
yeah,
interesting.
he's like self-binding and stuff, which I think is super cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember this guy. I think he did one on Alan Moore's Swamp Thing run. That was a really
Yeah,
good
yeah.
series.
He was a big swamp guy. Swamp thing guy, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great run. But I digress. I don't know if there's anything else to talk about just yet. Oh, he talked about. Wait, is Supernova Era the one about the dinosaurs?
No. Supernova Era is the premise for that one is a supernova happens like a couple billion light years away, and at the time humanity doesn't detect it, and so its radiation comes to Earth, and it hits Earth, and basically everybody under the age of 12, or everybody older than 12, with the exception of some 13-year-olds, is going to die, and they know they're going to die, and they have about 9 months to prepare children 12 and younger to take over society.
Oof.
And like, how would that work? And that's the basic premise of that one.
The one last thing I wanted to talk about before we leave here this evening.
Sure.
I see you have covered some indie books on here as well, and I've been trying to like dip my toes into it as well. I mean, I know we talked about the Adan trilogy a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are you like slowly dipping in, or
it's when I just hear about a book, if it sounds interesting to me, I'm willing to read it, and half the time I don't even go into the effort of figuring out who it's published by or anything like that. So some of them I have just done unintentionally, where I didn't even know it was like a self-published indie author or anything like that. But if your book sounds interesting to me, I have no problem with reading it. I don't have any of those prejudice anymore. I'm sure if some of the books that I'm sure at some point, if somebody was like, yeah, it's self-published, I would have been like, you. But that's not. I've seen the quality that can come from that at this point, and so I know that that's not really the case anymore.
What a response.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm sure that is something I'm sure that's something I would have said in the past.
Yeah, but
I've since learned.
seen you cover books. I see you've covered books like Gunmetal Gods and
yeah.
Well, of course, the Adan trilogy and
yeah, and like technically,
Christmas Tree Salesman.
Yeah, that was just I wanted a real Christmassy read, and that was just I think I saw Tori talk about that one, and I was like, you know what, let's go for it. It's exactly what I'm looking for. It's like if you want like the most Christmassy book of all time, read that book. It's hilarious. It's great for Christmas.
I'm generally not a fan of cozy mysteries. I'm more of a like hard-boiled noir kind of guy. Though I've heard she kind of does a hard-boiled voice in that book a little bit with the.
There is a little bit of a noir feel to it. Obviously,
though it's played
it's a little
laughs,
silly.
Though it's kind of played for laughs.
It is. It definitely is. But like,
no,
it's one of those books where it's like, you get what the author's trying to do.
It's very tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a Christmas book, of course. You kind of know what you're getting into going into it.
But yeah, that does sound like one I would read. I mean, but
yeah.
I might give that one a try because like I do
it's
like
a fun
good
Christmas
noir parody from time to time.
Yeah, if you're gonna obviously read it around Christmas because it's super Christmas heavy, but yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, do you read like wintry reads during the like Christmas season or winter time? Or?
No, I've never really been like this is a summer book. This is a winter book. The closest I've gotten to it is obviously like I said I read A Christmas Carol at Christmas because okay, yeah, it's a Christmas book. I did have people tell me to read The Shining when it was like fall/winter, and so I was like, okay, I'll wait to read it because people are telling me to do that, but like. I don't know. If a book's good, it's going to be good no matter what time of year it is. Now, I guess sometimes it is fun to like pair stuff up for Halloween and read some like horror stuff.
Oh yeah, every Halloween that I've been doing this channel, I read and cover a bunch of horror books. So,
yeah, so like, but Halloween isn't like a season; it's like a holiday.
It's a holiday. Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. Same with Christmas, I guess technically. But yeah, I don't really have like this is a winter book because it happened in a cold place. It's like, I don't care. It can happen. I can read this in the middle of summer. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm generally not that way either, but there's sometimes I'm like, this seems more appropriate for like a summer read, But we'll see. But going back to the self-pub, I'm trying to get more into that. Like I've read The Legend of Blackjack,
Okay.
and the Adan trilogy, which I think the Adan trilogy, or at least the 2 books I've read so far, probably been my favorite self-pub books I've read so far. So.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Some of the other ones I've read and Will White is kind of like, he's so successful as a self-pub author. I feel like he almost gets left out of the conversation.
Oh, I thought he was a.
But,
I thought he was a trad pub author.
No, I'm pretty sure he self-publishes all of his stuff still.
Oh.
And so, but like he's one of those super successful authors that I think a lot of people don't count him as an indie author anymore because he's kind of broken through because he has such mainstream appeal. But yeah, I think technically he still self-publishes all his stuff. And I've been reading his Last Horizon series, so it's the series he's been working on after he finished Cradle. And I've had a really good time with that.
Yeah,
as well.
I've heard a lot of people really like his series.
Yeah, Cradle's the big one, and I have and I haven't read Cradle. I own all of the Cradle books because when he was releasing the last Cradle book, I think he gave away all of the ebooks for free.
Yeah, I'm generally wary of longer series unless it's like Game of Thrones where I'm like really invested. But
yeah, if they weren't free, I wouldn't have. But
I am starting Malazan next year, so I'm kind of backing off
buckle
that
up
a little bit.
See, I'm all about the long series. They don't bother me. So.
Well, you like Wheel of Time, so I mean that's like 15 books, isn't it?
If you count the prequel, yeah.
That is crazy.
15 books. Yep.
But it sounds like
super long.
But you said it's your favorite, so I mean that's.
Yeah, it is. I am a Wheel of Time prophet. I will try to convince anybody to read it. I don't care.
You're a wheelie,
like to,
as my friend Matt likes to say.
Absolutely, and look, it has flaws. I'm not one of the people who can't admit that it has some errors, but I think a lot of people overblow a lot of stuff about that series.
Well, all right. I am getting hungry, so I'm probably going to cut this off now. But Tom, thank you very much for coming on this show. I'm glad we managed to get this together. Me too, man. Yeah, it was like I said, long time coming, but we made it happen. It was well worth it. This was a fun conversation. Yeah, absolutely. As I like to do before the end of these, if you have any social media, feel free to share. Yeah, sure. My YouTube channel is Tom Orange. I talk about books there. I do have an Instagram. I think it's just Tom Orange again there, and I have an email that's in the description of my videos if you want to send me an email. But that's pretty much it. All right. Well, until next time, this has been Britton's Hangout Hour. So, till next.